name is Dorothy Bradley. I'm president of the Niles Essanay Silent Film Museum. I'd like to take a few minutes to tell you some little bits about Chaplin's A Jitney Elopement. In 1914, Chaplin had a contract with the Keystone Film Company. This was his first year of working in movies. In December of 1914, that contract had just run out, and he signed a new one-year contract with Gilbert Anderson, one of the two co-owners of the Essanay Film Company. A Jitney Elopement is a two-reel short that was released on April 1st, 1915. It was Chaplin's fifth film for Essanay and the fourth of five that he made right here in Niles, California, between January 15th and April 7th, 1915. Even though Chaplin had only been making films for a little over a year at this point, he actually was gaining considerable notice with the public. At Niles, Chaplin had virtual control to direct and edit his films as well as acting in them and doing the scripting. At this point in time, Chaplin mostly worked from ideas of what he wanted to see visually on the screen rather than working from a written scenario. And in fact, much of the time that is how he worked. But he was one of these that would really try various ideas, gags, tricks, whatever he wanted. He would just keep at it, regardless of the time of the day or night, until he got what he really wanted. And this is what kind of resulted in his unique style of comedy continuing to develop very rapidly. Very shortly after Charlie's arrival in Niles, he hired Edna Purviance to be his female lead, even though she had no prior experience in the movies. Born in Lovelock, Nevada, and raised in Paradise Valley, Edna was living in San Francisco with her sister Bessie Hill when the ad for the Essanay Film Company, looking for the prettiest girl in California, was placed in the San Francisco Chronicle. By the making of The Champion, which was her third film with Charlie, it was obvious that they were working well together. And interestingly, she continued working with Charlie until she married in the 20s and retired from filmmaking. It was also at Niles where the tramp character was fully developed. It was started when Chaplin was working at the Keystone Company, but the Tramp and the Champion especially were films that showed the fully fleshed character. As a result, by the time Chaplin left Niles to continue his filmmaking for Essanay in the Los Angeles area, the Essanay studio was getting so many requests for exhibition prints that the studio had to first double and then not too much later triple the number of release prints for theaters due to the popularity of Chaplin's short films. Jitney was, in the very early 1900s, a slang term of unknown origin, but two possibilities that have been suggested were down in New Orleans, the French word for jeton, which was a small disc of metal, or from St. Louis as jitney for a small coin used to pay bus fares, which were commonly 5 cents. The word quickly evolved into referring to the touring cars that carried passengers for pay and buses themselves. By 1915, San Francisco was suffering from jitney fever. Although the title of the film does not have any relevance to the story, Chaplin made the most of the working title to publicize the film while it was in progress, and then kept the title for the finished film. This part of the movie was filmed on sets. However, the second part was shot in various locations around San Francisco. Back in 1915, getting to San Francisco was not all that easy. There were no bridges, so one either had to cross the bay by boat or drive south to San Jose and then all the way back up the peninsula. Chaplin, having been born and raised in London, really liked being in large cities and spent as much time in San Francisco as he could. A further allure at this point in time was the fact that the Panama Pacific International Exposition, also known as the 1915 World's Fair, was just opening. And yet another enticement was his friend Roscoe Arbuckle and Mabel Normand were also in San Francisco in early 1915 filming Fatty and Mabel Visit the World's Fair and two other films. To top it all off, Anderson decided to treat the Niles employees to a day at PPIE. The end result was that Chaplin went up to San Francisco to make his third film with Essanay in the park in March of 1915, and then just stayed over to make A Jitney Elopement. Several locations in and near the then fairly new Golden Gate Park were used. Scenes of Charlie, Edna, and Leo White as the Count Chloride de Lime were in the park. Also, those scenes with Bud Jameson and Lloyd Bacon as cops were also in the Golden Gate Park and gave a nice touch of Keystone Cops comedy for the film. For me, the highlight of the film is near the beginning of the chase scenes. As the jitney comes out from underneath an overpass and circles around, one sees a windmill in the background, and the blades are moving. These scenes are a very good example of how film can be an unintended documentary record of the time when the film was shot. The Murphy Windmill was the second of two windmills built to pump water for the new landscaping in the new Golden Gate Park. In 1902, the Park Board had approved the building of two windmills so that they wouldn't have to pay the Spring Valley Water Company for large amounts of water for the new landscaping. The Dutch windmill, which began operations in 1903, was built on the very northwest corner of Golden Gate Park, and the Murphy Windmill, which began operations in 1908, was located at the southwest corner, both near the Great Highway. The Great Highway ran approximately 3.5 miles along the coast, running from the Cliff House on Point Lobos on the north side down past the west end of Golden Gate Park and ending after swinging inland and dead-ending at Skyline Boulevard. The windmills were abandoned as a source of power to pump the water very early on and were replaced by electrical pumps. As a Bay Area native, I've never seen either windmill moving, so this is very interesting to me to see the Murphy Mill actually at work. Thankfully, both windmills have been preserved, so you can still see them at the far west end of Golden Gate Park. At the very end of the sequence, where the jitney is circling in front of the Murphy Windmill and the overpass, one gets a very fleeting glimpse of a trolley car up on the overpass. According to the 1915 map, the trolley line was the Ellis Ocean Car Number 20 that ran from the SP train depot to the ocean, the latter part being along Lincoln Way. Very near the Murphy Windmill, the line swings north and parallels the Great Highway, where it ended just above the northwest corner of Golden Gate Park. If you'd like more information about Chaplin filming locations, I do highly recommend finding a copy of Silent Traces by John Bengtson. It's a marvelous collection with then and now photographs. Well, thank you for your time. I hope you enjoy watching the movie, and I hope you enjoy seeing the Murphy Windmill actually running. Thank you.